Hello, welcome to Why Wait Till Sunday. This is a special edition of our show. We are going to do some off-season content, and I thought it would be really fun to do some kind of interviews. So we're not really going to talk about fantasy players. We're not going to talk about rankings, but we have Thor Nystrom here from Roto World. He writes about college football. He writes about the NFL draft, and he also just so happens to be the king of NCAA football online dynasties. You may remember the game. I think it stopped being published in 2013, but he has kept these online dynasties going. He loves the game, and you know, it's timely because we just got notice that EA is going to put this game back out. So we want to talk about that and maybe take a trip down memory lane for everyone who enjoyed that game. So Thor, how are you, and what's it like over in your neck of the woods?
I'm good, man. Really good. And it is unbearably cold in my neck of the woods. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis right now. I actually have a space heater going on behind me right now, so I hope it's not too loud, the whirring. But yeah, it's ludicrously cold. In fact, I'm still under a public weather advisory to stay inside. It's so cold. It's like the wind chill's like -18 or 20 right now. So it's good we're podcasting because I could die if I walk outside right now. That's why I got the beard going on right now. We're trying to grow as much hair as we can so we can stay alive.
Very good. I understand that. I mean, yeah, it's like in the 40s. I'm down in the South, Atlanta, and it's in like the 40s, and I'm freezing. So I don't even
is
want
what we call shorts and sunbathing weather in Minnesota.
I know.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective, right? I mean,
is.
I can't even imagine negative wind chill. So stay inside. I'm glad I could keep you, keep your schedule so you don't like wander outside by accident and have some bad event or something like that.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, I am excited to hear about like a legendary NCAA gamer and hear about how much you love the game, because I know I do, but I think you're taking it to the next level. So can you just describe, for anyone who's listening may not know, you run these dynasties and you've been doing this now for almost a decade since the last one was published. So what was your thought behind it? How did you start it? And also if you could share like an awesome story, like an amazing championship or something like that just sticks in your mind.
Yeah, so I've been playing the NCAA video games since I was a kid. I mean, since I guess the original PlayStation, I mean, going all the way back, and I was the kid that would bring my PlayStation when my family would go down to Kansas City, for Christmas and Thanksgiving. I'd bring it down so I could, play my dynasties, when we weren't doing anything. I was that kind of a kid. We were talking before the show, one of my favorite memories with NCAA when we'd have sleepovers, when I was a kid. We'd rip through dynasties. If it was a sleepover with one guy, you do it, you play the game, otherwise you'd be simming, when you play him, you play the game, otherwise you'd sim for it. Two guys, obviously, you play the two, but, you recruit in the interim. So I played up through then. And then, like you mentioned, the last game came out in July of 2013. I happened to be moving to China around that time because I gotten done with grad school. So I brought my PS3 to China and I played the last game that year teaching in China. And it's funny, the end of that year, the funny story, the very end of that year teaching in China, I'd played that game a lot, more than even the usual NCAA games because in China, especially where I was in a rural part of a city called Chongqing. There wasn't a lot of people that spoke English. And so a lot of times after class, I would just go back to my apartment and I would play NCAA dynasties. Well, anyway, at the end of this year, I knew I was coming back to the States and I was playing a dynasty with Idaho. And I finished that season. I'll never forget it. I finished 9-4 and I finished 9-3. And I didn't make a bowl game, I think is what it was. And they fired me. After year one. And
that's ridiculous.
I took the game out and I was teaching in China with a buddy from grad school. So one other guy had come there and I told him that I would never play NCAA again because I knew a new game wasn't coming out. Like I was so irate that they had fired me. I was so like, I brought in some good recruits as well. And so anyway, I actually didn't play the game for like 2 years. I came back to the States and I didn't play. And then after this couple year hiatus, I got back into it because of the online dynasties. And funny enough, I had not played while the game was actually in run. I had not played online dynasties. Like back in the day, I just played, with my buddies, or I played online, or I played in the dorms or whatever. But I'd never tried out the online dynasties. But with my job, all of a sudden, covering college football, I had a bunch of people that I interacted with and stuff like that. And come to find out, there was a bunch of other people that still like to play NCAA football. And so I was able to throw together some of these online dynasties and could start playing with other people again. It was a blast. And so that's what we've been doing here for the last several years. And there was, recently been this huge groundswell, with NCAA. It seemed like it was almost with the quarantine, everyone started playing NCAA football and started talking about NCAA football again. And that guy from Barstool Sports started playing it, and everyone was watching him, and it just became like a bigger and bigger deal now with EA Sports as announcement and stuff. So it's just really cool with the game coming back and stuff like that. It's a fun time for players of the game, longtime players of the game.
Yeah, it really is. And I actually was listening to a podcast the other day that said, we're of the age, I would imagine we might be somewhat similar. You might be a little younger, but we're of an age where like this is legit nostalgia for us, in addition to nostalgia, but also technology interacting here with this. When the new game comes out, we're going to be like, oh, I remember, if it's in the game, it's in the game, and you're going to get all this amazing feeling, but then it's also going to be like super relevant technology. And so it's actually, you touched on something there with, back in the day, I didn't play online Dynasty either. I mean, I played Dynasty on the couch with my friends and, or by myself, but I didn't, this is going to be a new era of gaming. I mean, since the game has been out, now people do all sorts of online stuff, and I don't even game that much. I mean, I'm going to buy a console, I think, just to play college football when it comes out. But like, I'm not in that world. And I think it's very different from when I left it in 2012 or 2013. So how do you think the game's going to interact with how people do online gameplay now? And I mean, Twitch and all this other stuff, you can stream things, and it just seems so different than me in my, in my dorm with four of my friends.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, assuming the game is good, I think there's going to be an acceleration of the game's popularity just because of the ability to sort of disseminate, the gameplay and stuff like that, like you're talking about, and broadcast it out and stuff like that. In the past, like when it came out in 2013, there wasn't, the same sort of thing, and like, the past 3-4 years, there's been a huge explosion in, in sports title popularity in video games. Unfortunately, the NCAA games, and not just football, basketball as well, those titles have not been available to the public. So I think when those titles come back, I think that they're going to be hugely popular. This increased popularity in video games at a time when people are sort of forced to be home. It's coming in conjunction at a time when the most quote unquote popular games by the sales, a lot of times they're the games that are most maligned by the people that are playing them. Madden's a great example of this. It's a game that sort of stagnated, and in a lot of different metrics. The dynasty mode, the players of that game are very disappointed by it and stuff like that. NCAA was a game that, famously sort of improved every single year that it was out. And so we'll have to see, coming back. But these are guys that have had a really long time to think about improvements to the game, since 2013. So hopefully they come out firing with the new one.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. I just want to run the option again and have to read, the end and all that stuff again. Yeah. So let me ask you this: why, for you personally, why college football? Why do you think you didn't get into Madden? Why? I'm sure you've played Madden, but college football specifically seems to be it's what you like. You write about it, but what about it? What makes it? Why was it for you?
Well, a lot of it, I mean, just college football against the NFL, a lot of it goes back to the NCAA football game, honestly. Because I preferred playing it to Madden, and a big part of that for me is the dynasty mode. It has always been more compelling than the Madden dynasty mode. It's funny to hear people complaining about this recently. I think that this has always been the case. In NCAA, the dynasty mode, it's so compelling, the way that they set up their recruiting. whether it's against the computer, which is, slightly easy to figure out once you've done a lot of the recruiting, or whether it's against the users, which is always compelling. If you're against 12, 11 guys, it's capped at 12 when you do an online dynasty. But when you're against 11 high end users, the recruiting is pretty intense. It's a different thing than in the Madden franchise mode, which again is just sort of stagnated into all these sort of micro transactions and BS. It's just a different level of gameplay. It seems like it's far more realistic and far more fun to do the NCAA version. I just like it a lot more. And then as far as like the playbooks and stuff like that, there's just a lot more variance and fun stuff you can do in the NCAAs. You were mentioning like the option plays and the read option plays, and now in the new game we'll get all the RPO and all the fun stuff like that. It's going to be great. Chef's kiss.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Chef. I mean, yeah. Oh man, I didn't even think about RPOs. I mean, imagine as a user, as a player, mastering reading that RPO and knowing, I can pull it and get the slant or whatever. I mean, that's going to be a skill. That's going to be a big time skill to harness that. I'm excited all over again. Yeah, that's going to be really fun. So, all right, let me put you in the role. You get hired by EA to be special consultant because they're like, oh, you're obviously know the intimate details of this game. What's the number?
EA. Make it happen.
Yeah, let's go. Make it happen. If an EA guy happens to come across Why Wait Till Sunday, hire Thor. You are in charge. First day on the job. What is the number one feature or detail, whatever you want to call it, that you want in the new game?
For me, it would be unlimited players in Online Dynasty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't think about that for their first thing, but right now it's capped at 12, and there's absolutely no reason for it to be capped at 12. There's no cap in the Madden one. You can play 32 players. Everyone can have a team. And NCAA, if you didn't have a cap, you could go up to 130. Even if you didn't do that, hell, having 50 guys would be super fun. And there's that many players that are, interested in the game. You could have crazy fun dynasties, with really high level players. I would really like to see that. In my time, I've seen really, really compelling online dynasties, and I could get a lot more than 12 guys in mine. So I would like to see that number expanded by quite a bit. They have the capability to do it. There's no reason to cap it at 12.
Yeah, you would think that should not be too difficult, especially if Madden goes 32. And then what would every power, like if you said, okay, enough for everyone to have a Power 5 team, what's that going to be like 60 maybe?
It would be
5 conferences, roughly 12 teams per conference.
Yeah, that would be 70, low 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be nice. You just assign everyone a Power 5 team and then just go for it. That would be awesome.
Or group of 5.
Yeah, well, either one. Yeah.
And then just take down the Power 5.
Yeah. Well, and then, if you got really intricate, you could have an application process for the user and maybe assign better players, worse teams, and worse players, better teams to kind of level out that playing field a little bit, and have a committee to decide who gets what team. You could go as detailed as you want, but that would be
for sure. Fun undertaking. Yeah. You could do 130 player. Because this is what we do in mine is we, when we start, we do a draft. The team's eligible. It's like usually we'll decide. It's a 2-star dynasty, right?
Right.
And so then the 2-star teams will be available. And if there's a couple outlier teams in terms of overall ratings, maybe we'll cut them off. But then, outside of that, and then the draft order will typically be an inverse of the player's skill. So the guy who's the least experienced or whatever, he'll get to pick first and go down. But yeah, if you had 60 guys playing, that would be super fun, and then the guy who's the best, the world-class player, he's got to pick last, he gets Kansas or whatever. I want Kansas, but
you're going to play with Kansas.
I'll take Kansas.
Yeah. Well, you live in Minnesota, so maybe you could get the Gophers, and they have some nice players.
They got a couple guys coming back. Yep.
Yeah. That sounds totally fun. Me and my friends actually did. We didn't do it with NCAA, but we did it with FIFA, and we did a giant tournament and assigned. Better players got worse teams, and worse players got better teams, and would have all these drinking rules and stuff. So by the end of the night, you had 2 just smashed people trying to navigate the championship game. It was really, really fun. I would love to do that with NCAA. That feels like another life ago, though. All right, so in a perfect world, this is what I'm hoping for, right? The game comes out. This is a hyper gaming culture. People are playing video games more than ever before. Like you said, the sports titles are huge. FIFA is huge worldwide. I really don't know what number 2 is. Madden may be close. And this is something to me that elevates popularity of a sport right now. If you can play in the game, and the younger generation is then going to like that sport because they can play it on their gaming console. So I'm thinking the NCAA football may have actually lost a step over the last 8 years with popularity, maybe because there was no game. And I think when you're getting new fans, that's a big deal. Kids can play FIFA, kids can play NBA, kids can play Madden, but they don't get a chance to feel like they're part of the game. So do you think that this coming out is a big deal for the popularity of college football in general?
I do. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about the popularity of the NFL against college, something I think about because I cover college football for a living, and that is a thing. I think a part of that is just the barrier of entry in terms of information to each. There's only 32 NFL teams, and those teams are comprised of players that, most people know because they came up in a minor league system, college football, that people saw them coming up, and then they went through the dog and pony show of the NFL draft. Everyone saw them walk up on the stage, and then, they seen them in the NFL for years where there's, great pomp and circumstance with the media coverage and stuff like that. And with college football, it just, churns over so quickly and stuff like that. For the average person, it's hard to keep track of all the rosters and stuff like that. And when you don't have something, for instance, like the video game, I think that would help people quite a bit if they had a video game every year, particularly with their rosters. We'll have to see what happens with the licensing. If EA is ever able to put out a game, that has the rosters. Of course, we have, communities, with the forums and stuff online that put the rosters up for us now. But, with the general public, it would help quite a bit if EA Sports was just able to put out a game that had the rosters preloaded. And I agree with you. I think that would help quite a bit for the younger generation. But I mean, really, literally for anyone that played the game, for any fan, casual on up, I just think it's going to help you, both understand the rosters better and feel more of a connection to the rosters. I mean, I feel that I cover the sport, but I have a better understanding of the minutia of the rosters by playing the game, just for my job, playing the game over these years. I know the two deep from Buffalo because I played, I play Buffalo, a dynasty with Buffalo. Right now I'm playing with Marshall. I can tell you the backup quarterback on Marshall's name. That it just is what it is. You play these games and I think, in part that explains some of, the NFL's rise, as far as Madden goes. I think for sure that contributes. And I think the NFL's handle as far as gambling goes also contributes to how many people watch their games on television. These things help. So, yeah, I mean, for college football, getting a game back, and the NCAA is so stupid. If they would have gotten out of the way with the licensing stuff and allowed this game to happen a long time ago, literally everyone wants, EA wants it, the players want it, the NCAA players want it, and also the video game players want it. The one that's been standing in the way the entire time has been the NCAA, because they won't allow EA Sports to pay the players the money that is rightfully theirs. Once they allow that to happen, all of this stuff can start to happen. But what's so dumb about it is that would only help the NCAA's cause, because, like we're mentioning, it's only going to increase the popularity of their product.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally, I'm 100% agree with you there. And, I think it's funny, Joe Burrow, didn't he tweet the day it got announced? He was like, this is all I wanted my whole life. This is a guy who won a Heisman. He won a national championship. He was the #1 overall draft pick. And he was like, all I wanted was to be on the cover of NCAA. Everybody wants it.
Well, and people might, think he's joking, but if, me growing up, if I had been fortunate enough to be a football demigod, I really think I might have preferred to be on the cover of NCAA football over winning a Heisman Trophy. And people might think that that's obnoxious and crazy. But I think Joe Burrow actually might think that. And I don't think he's insane for that. The NCAA football franchise is that you know, I
huge.
mean, that's what it means to some people.
Yeah.
It means more than the Heisman Trophy to a whole hell of a lot of people. It's that kind of a thing. And so to have it taken away, it's a bigger thing than the NCAA. I mean, the NCAA Trophy is just, it's a symbol, but like the EA Sports college football game, it's actually something that you can interact with. It's
Right.
more than
And I think that's a huge point. I mean, the reason the game I think is so big and it will be big once it happens is you can interact with it. You can feel like you're a part of it. You can feel like you kind of maybe own a little bit of the action, whereas everything else you're watching it happen to you. But this you are invested in it, and I think that's just it creates a bond. I think you mentioned it earlier. It creates a bond with the sport, a bond with the pageantry, especially for college and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, even in college and stuff, when I was playing all the time, I mean, just logging obscene hours with the game. Like I would have definitely, I went to Florida, so I'm a Gator fan, but I would have definitely rather win my dorm room NCAA title on the game than the Gators win the real national title, like for sure. And nothing can make me more mad than having some cheese happen to you in the game and cost you some fumble or something. And, I get more mad at that than anything else in the whole world.
Yeah. Like a fumble at the goal line. You just, I broke in. I don't know what my controller graveyard is at this point. I actually haven't broke one in like 7 or 8 months. So I'm proud of myself. Like the controller I have right now has lasted a while, but I was on a run there where I was breaking a controller like every 2 months, just spiking it on the ground. Yeah. So luckily, I don't know if I'm working on my anger issues with the game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're showing some maturity there. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we mentioned. So I think you mentioned being familiar with the rosters, and that helps popularity. That helps being invested in it. So one thing that we do here at WWTS is college football DFS, and I think that is another way to get really intimate with the rosters, knowing Akron's 4th string running back, for Maction on Tuesday nights or whatever. So I think these things kind of go hand in hand. The game coming back, people being more familiar with the teams and the rosters, and then, maybe feeling that they're enabled to dip their toes into maybe some DFS or because they know the teams and players better. So I think it's actually a bigger deal than just a video game. I mean, I really do. And especially video games aren't something that just like 13-year-olds do. I mean, we grew up with games. We're in our 30s, I would imagine you are too. And it's just part of life. It's a hobby. It's an aftertime. I mean, it's like going out and playing in the sandlot. It's just what we do because we grew up with it. So I'm excited, and I think it's going to be bigger than just a video game. I really, I think it could drive a lot of shift in college football popularity, maybe get it closer to the NFL. Probably won't reach that level, but
yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I mean, it's certainly going to lead to an increase. And, I think people that, have the predispositions that you and I do, I think, that's all we're looking for, right? We're looking for more people to become invested in what we're sort of invested in. And, if we can get, sort of a groundswell of an online community around the new game, and the new game is good, that would be really great. And also I have I thought of a couple more new things for the new game that I would like to bring up. One of the other ones, this is probably my biggest, before it was more of a boring one, but I think that's a necessity. This is one of my more compelling ideas. So for EA Sports, this one's going to take more doing, but this would be just absolutely sensational if they could pull this off. I don't know, even if they get the NLI or the NIL, I'm not, whatever, however you say that, I'm not sure how this would work, but if they can somehow pull this off, it'd be incredible. What I want is the ability to do historical dynasties for, both offline, but also online. So what this would entail is like, you start your dynasty, and you could begin, let's say, in 2005. Not only would you start with the 2005 rosters, for instance, but you would begin by recruiting the 2006 class, literally that class, all the kids that were in the 2006 class. They're from their same cities. And even, you have the 3 different, recruiting things that every kid's looking for. You could even try to load it with, where what those kids were thinking, if possible. And then you just redo those kids' process. It would be absolutely sensational. If they could somehow pull this off, it would be the greatest feature of any sporting game in the history of sports video games.
Wow. I'm thinking like you can go recruit Reggie Bush.
Yes.
Like, oh, wow. I mean, that's
just redo the history of college football recruiting.
That would be incrable.
Incredible.
And then obviously, like, because in your dynasty, maybe he doesn't go to USC. Maybe you pull him, and he winds up at Michigan or whoever knows. But that would be wow. That's a good thought. I mean, that's awesome.
It'd be incredible.
Yeah. And then I guess they'd have to be, because you have hindsight at that point. So, they'd have to be loaded as really good players, I guess. Obviously. I don't know how. I mean, what about guys who just go crazy as a freshman? Would they come in as like 96s?
No, the way you do it is the way it would be preloaded on the 247 board. It would literally just be what the final rankings were that year, right? Mm-hmm. And so even the bus would still be in the same spot on the board. And you would have them initially, they would be, in order of, about what, like usually what they come out at, so like the top guys would look like, 81 overall, 80 overall, 79 overall. But then you'd have to still scout, and then the kids that turned out to be busts, they might drop down to, 68 overall, 67 overall. Of course, we, with the benefit of hindsight, we would know the kids that were studs. So, we would have that, but, it would still be, I mean,
man, that would be super fun. Gosh, that's an incredible thought.
If they could do it, man, if they could do it. Yeah, I mean, just like, and they don't have to preload every single year. Even if they could just start with 5 years and let us start in 2015. And then, for the next year's game, have the goal of trying to put in 5 more years, like Football Outsiders, they used to go, every single year they would try to go back 1 year in time with their, they would try to log 1 more year back in time with the charting. Yeah. And so they get more and more back every single year. That's what they could try to do with this. Again, I don't know what the agreement would have to be, because like with the NBA, you can, and the NFL, you can put in some of the historical players because of the way that the contracts work. I'm not sure what it is with the NCAA. It might turn into a quagmire because we don't even know what the deal is going to be using the kids' names that are currently in college. So I don't know about that, but I do have a workaround. Okay. EA, if you're listening, you're still the guy who works for EA. You're still online. Okay, great. Because I'm talking to you. Even if you can't work this out, you can't figure out a deal, Ron Dane and Reggie Bush, you can't figure out how to get them on board, whatever, to pay them with this. All you need to do is open up the capability for the folks on the board to be able to screw around with the recruiting classes, in the modifications. So just give us the capability of having historical, classes or whatever, historical dynasties where we can go back in time. We can modify the recruiting classes on our own because there's savages out there that will do this. They will modify them on their own. So you just open up the capability for us and we'll get it done. So either you guys do it because you can, or else just open up the capability for us in the new game and we got it.
There you go. Problem solved.
Just
let the internet do it.
Let the internet do it. Just open up the capability. We just need the capability and we'll get it done.
One last question and then we'll turn it off here. But okay, so one big, huge thing that's changed in college football since 2013 is this basically free agent situation with the transfer portal. So how should that be incorporated in the game? And I'm sure it'll be very frustrating for us because we'll lose all sorts of players. But how do you balance, having it realistic because the transfer portal is a real thing now? I mean, it's a huge deal versus losing all your players because you didn't play them enough.
Yeah, well, another one of my big suggestions, hey EA Sports, if I was talking to EA Sports, they need to revamp the transfer rules as is in the game. That's one thing about NCAA 14 that's not the best. So they need to revamp that as is. Adding the transfer portal is one thing that's going to happen in the new games. You're going to have a feature with the transfer portal. There's also going to be something with the grad transfers, right? Because that wasn't a thing in the last game. So you're going to have a different delineation between the grad transfers and just the regular ones. There's going to be some sort of grad or transfer portal deal. And then I would, like I said, I would switch the algorithms a little bit. Maybe there's going to be more kids who are sort of shopping their services because they didn't play, more kids who are homesick. And then maybe, they sort of, have a period where they can sort of look and other teams can contact them. And then, you can sort of talk to them. But the way that the transfer work in the current game, it's one of the few aspects of the game that I don't like because I don't find it realistic. Like you'll have like, at most like 2-3, even if you have like an awesome team, like, if you built your team up for like 4 years, you're 99 across the board. And, you have like, like 3 quarterbacks who are above a 95 and the third one never plays. Like, you might not have any of those guys transfer, you might have 2 or 3 guys at most transfer. But then if they do elect to look and transfer, you invariably have almost zero chance of talking them back into going. So it's like this stoplight binary thing where it's either like they don't transfer even when they maybe should, or else if they think about transferring, they're gone no matter what. And in my opinion, it should be more like more kids should be considering transferring. And, if you had this sort of transfer portal idea, it would open up this ability, more like, again, like free agency, like you mentioned, which is actually more like it is in real life, where you enter your name in the transfer portal. And again, maybe you could even see like, oh, player X has been contacted by, these 6 schools. And the reason he's transferring is, for instance, he wants more playing time, and let's say you're the coach at UNC, right? And this guy has 2 guys above him, and he just got contacted by South Alabama and maybe UL Monroe. And, and there's a better shot that he can play at both of those schools. And, now you have to make an argument to him, that he should stay. But there should also be a repercussion if you make him a promise and he doesn't, and you don't go through with it and he stays, which right now there really isn't. You can just promise him pie in the sky stuff. They come back and there's no repercussions. If you can just promise him he wins the Heisman, he'll, like sometimes they come back. If he doesn't win the Heisman, it doesn't really matter. So there's some things that they can do for sure to fix the transfer stuff. Again, it's really the only aspect of the game as far as the dynasty that I feel like they came up a little bit short in NCAA 14. I'm sure that they know that. And I'm sure there's going to be big changes to the transfer algorithms in the new one.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I always thought it was silly that, you had all these promises you could make and you had no accountability to keep them at all, it seemed. So, that would be something that would make more sense. You shouldn't make a promise if you don't keep it. It's a big ding and guys could leave or whatever, because I never thought I was like, well, why wouldn't I just promise him absolutely everything, 100% of all the things I could do. So, yeah. Well, we have gotten, to about time here. I really, really appreciate you coming on. It's been so fun. I mean, this is like so exciting, I think, for us, but probably for many, many people out there. And like I said, I think it's worth talking about because, again, it's not just about a video game. I think this could be big for college football as a sport in general. So any parting thoughts? Otherwise, we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, man, for college football. Both this game coming out, a lot of the laws changing, to allow more gambling, which, again, it's just something that's going to increase, visibility as far as more people being interested, as far as more people watching television. Once you get that investment, whether it's, people playing the video game, whether it's more people watching for whatever reason, the level of increase goes up, then they want to consume more media. It's just, people like you and me love the sport. And so we just want more people to love the sport, and so it is a very exciting time because you do see, you are seeing that start to happen. So it's just really cool, man. Last week when EA Sports announced what they announced, I forgot if that was Tuesday or Wednesday, but it was just a party on Twitter, man. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just a 24-hour party, Yeah,
sports. I think I tweeted out as like the most fun day on Twitter that I can remember. I mean, it was just everybody was happy, and it was funny because it was universal happiness. Like nobody came in with a cold blanket. I mean, everyone was just like, yes, this is awesome. I mean, it was a fun day.
It's probably the only day like that I can remember where there was one topic where literally there was no, other take. There was no, there was no one trying to go the other way and be negative. It was just literally just everyone celebrating. And it was just a cool thing, because on Twitter, like, a lot of times you're going through the feed and it's just, BS or false information or, bad vibes or, different stuff like this. So there's a piece of news and, whatever. But that was a super, super fun day on Twitter. It
really was. And it was a little bit bummer that it turned out it's going to be years, but that's okay. We'll just bide our time and get excited.
Everyone get back on the servers still work on PS3, NCAA 14. So you come and join. Find me on Twitter if you still got the PS3 or you get a PS3. Get the new mod for the game for NCAA 14 and come and find me because I'll be running those online dynos at least until the new game comes. So I'm at Thorku on Twitter. Come and find me if you want to play in an online dyno because I'll be running them at least till then.
Yeah, I might even have to. I mean, PS3 can't be that expensive these days. I may just do one so I can get my feet wet and get ready for the new game in a couple of years or whenever it comes out.
And here's the last piece of advice I'll give to people before I go out the door is, the new game, or I'm sorry, the old game, it has become expensive. The old NCAA 4. If you look it up online, it's funny because the new game is going to be less expensive than the old game. The old game costs like $150 online right now. However, the mod, if you it's called NCAA revamped or whatever. There's a hashtag on Twitter at NCAA revamped, I think. You go on there, it'll give you instructions on how to download NCAA revamped. You get that, you're going to need a thumb drive, but once you get that, it downloads the game onto your hard drive of your PS3. Once you get that, you don't need the disc anymore. So if you borrow a disc from your buddy, you can get the game on your hard drive or whatever. Might be a way to help you get the game if you don't have $150 lying around. Just an idea for people that want to play the game before it comes out, if you don't have the money lying around. But certainly, if you do, however you can get your hands on the game, come and join us, guys. Like I said, people have been playing this game since 2013. The party's never stopped. So if you enjoyed playing before, you still will. I promise you.
That's great. That's good. That's great advice too. And let's just hope for the game. Let's hope for more DFS, more responsible gambling, and for college football just to get huge. I mean, that's why I named this "Why Wait Till Sunday." Everyone does NFL stuff, but we got a whole party happening on Saturday. So I hope that continues. Thor, thank you so much for joining us. That was really fun, and certainly go follow him. Yeah, it's Thor THORKU. For Kansas University, I would imagine. So Thor KU, and we'll get out of here. But I appreciate your time, and why wait till Sunday, folks? Bye.